This presentation focuses on digital badging in K-12 education and was created by Michelle Beauregard. Badging has been used throughout history as a method of showing rank, appreciating credentials, and rewarding achievement. The Army has used it with chevrons on the sleeves and lapels of their uniforms. Boy Scouts and Girl Guides have used various badges to acknowledge achievement, and video games, of course, utilize badging in a similar manner. How then can we leverage this notion of badging as a mechanism for recognizing achievement within the confines of the K-12 classroom? Or can we? Gamification is a topic of broad and current interest in both business and education. Researchers like McGonigal and G have identified the power of gamification to motivate and reward humans for achievement. Przybylski et al. Summarize it succinctly with their assertion that 30 years ago, few anticipated that video gaming contexts would transition from an activity pursued mostly by young male technophiles into a dominant mainstream entertainment media that appeals to all demographics. Gaming contents have come into our world in a myriad of locations. Fitbit gamifies fitness. Amazon's Audible gamifies the consumption of books indulged in by the listener. Snapchat gamifies communication. Everywhere we turn, it seems we have a cabinet filled with digital badges specific to the task at hand. Yet in K-12 education, we remain behind in this area. Can we employ badges? Is there research that shows this could be valuable? And how can students carry this credentialing forward into post-secondary and beyond? At this point in time, it seems there are more questions than answers. This brief presentation aims to outline the potential and possibilities as well as the limitations of badging in the educational environment. This presentation will use the definition put forth by Gamrat et al., stating that digital badges, also known as micro-credentials, are online representations of learning experiences and activities that tell a story about the learner's education and skills. To this end, badges in education would serve as a motivator to students as they do in video games, but would provide a story about the learning that has taken place, without replacing the grading system that is so deeply entrenched in our educational system. For example, a B in geometry could be explained by virtue of which badges were achieved and which were missed. While a report card grade shows a final assessment, digital badges have the potential to show that despite that mastery may not yet be achieved, significant progress has been made. The International Society for Technology and Education states that K-12 educators, particularly at the secondary level, are considering these questions and asking if today's scoring metrics are able to provide a robust picture of who our students are and what they can do. In an age of information, a simple grade and a small comment on a paper report card that is only printed 3 or 4 times per year is becoming less and less acceptable to parents and students. Digital badging has the potential to broaden the scope of assessment of skills and knowledge in the classroom. The Horizon report in 2015 indicated that badging in education was on a 4 to 5 year timeline to adoption. The 2016 Horizon report does not list badging in education at all. The timeline for this appears to be gone. Research into the use of badges in education reveals that likely the lack of standardization of badging is a key component to its absence in K-12 education. The badges hold no value or merit if they do not carry forward with the student. They become an isolated reward mechanism that is only useful in the moment, not very different than giving a child a sucker or a candy for good behavior. They don't hold long-term value. This presents a challenge. If a student achieves goals or skills, and this is acknowledged via a badge, that badge needs to be recognized by the next level of schooling or employment, not remain in the distributed learning environment in which it was awarded. Research into gamification remains a challenge. Bedwell et al. Articulate this succinctly when they state, clearly many attempts have been made at defining what constitutes games in order to understand how they work to engender learning. For example, why are they engaging? How they convey knowledge. It is extremely difficult to isolate the variable in any research into gaming in the classroom. There is much overlap between motivation to play, reward mechanisms, and the psychology behind these things. Bedwell et al. Underscore this reality with the assertion, overlap almost certainly exists between these various games, as in the case of rules and goals. Reconciling evidence for overlapping constructs provides a theoretical challenge requiring a more parsimonious orthogonal taxonomy. Yet despite the growing research interest in serious games, a unified taxonomy remains elusive. With no unified taxonomy in place, ascertaining how the entire game functions to draw the interest of players remains challenging for educators to assess. Research is hampered when there is a lack of parsimony. Bedwell et al. Took on the challenge of rectifying this lack of parsimony and used a card sorting technique to identify 19 game attributes that can be independently manipulated. This work, later referred to by Landers as the Bedwell taxonomy, was intended to act as a springboard for further research into game attributes, and indeed Landers employed this article as a backbone for his work researching badging and leaderboards in education. Badges are used in video games in a variety of manners depending upon the game itself. Gibson et al. Identify 3 primary purposes for badges: providing incentives, promoting exploration and discovery, and credentialing. These 3 things are important in education as we strive to incentivize learning to accommodate the needs of the 21st century learner to have immediate feedback, as we promote exploration and discovery in a new era where information is at our fingertips by virtue of the ubiquitousness of the smartphone, and as we aim to recognize achievements in a meaningful context. The need for a meaningful context may be at the heart of the challenges educators face in harnessing the power of gamification. McDaniel and Fanfarelli state that despite an abundance of research focusing on digital badges in recent years, guidelines for developing effective design strategies within the psychological context of user experience are scarce. With professional teams competing and sponsorship behind the players, Valve's game Counter-Strike Global Offensive, CSGO, is one of the most popular games in the world. McDaniel and Fanfarelli examined their badging system and found it to contain 18 ranks and a dual badging model which includes permanent badges and fluctuating badges. Permanent badges, as their name indicates, stay with the player regardless of his or her playing habits. Fluctuating badges will change depending on things like the frequency of play and the difficulty of achieving the win against better players. The badges in this game are used to enhance performance across all domains. Abramovich et al. Conducted a study in 2013 amongst middle school children to explore whether badges are useful in education. Their findings did not exactly correlate to their hypothesis, so they explored the students' feelings about the use of badges and found this to be predominantly positive. Badge acquisition patterns were found to be quite different across learners with different levels of prior knowledge, and as they unpacked their findings, they determined that the changes in motivation that occurred as a result of the use of badges only impacted low-performing students. It is rare to uncover a strategy that has the potential to motivate students whose performance in a particular subject is suffering. They generally suffer low self-esteem in the face of the subject matter they struggle with, and may choose to mask this in the face of their peers with a lack of effort, which of course, over time compounds their struggles in a given subject area. This is of interest as we know as professionals that the prior knowledge a student brings to school greatly impacts their success in school, but it has, to this point, not been something we evaluate or assess. Badging in education would serve to acknowledge the process of learning and, as such, would motivate and encourage reluctant learners to continue the process of acquiring skills and knowledge. Desheva et al. Acknowledge that badges can be used to affect the behavior of students even when the badges have no impact on grading, further emphasizing that digital badges can be leveraged in the educational environment. Closely tied to badging is the use of leaderboards in classrooms. While in theory, this should inspire the competitive nature of students, Landers and Landers' quantitative research states that if competitors are not of equal ability, less skilled competitors may become less motivated over time after repeated failures, while more skilled competitors may become less motivated as the challenge diminishes. Certainly the goal of badges or leaderboards would be to increase motivation, productivity, time on task, and ultimately skill and knowledge acquisition. Clearly, if these strategies are not carefully implemented, they are unsuccessful at accomplishing any of the goals they were intended to achieve. Dominguez et al. Assigned students to be ranked on leaderboards based upon earned badges and found this to have mixed success using this approach. Landers and Landers go on to state that leaderboards should be designed to ensure that all students have roughly equal chances of placing on those leaderboards given equal amounts of effort. This means that if they are to be implemented, they must be carefully designed by the teacher prior to implementation. Landers and Landers suggest that leaderboards be used for objectives that increase time on task. Their particular study involved the use of a wiki, where the time spent making edits was observable by the researchers. However, recreating this in a traditional classroom setting in K-12 would be challenging to accomplish with accuracy. It should be noted that their research was conducted on undergraduate students. This does not then translate their results to K-12 students. Rather, it informs K-12 teachers that the gamified learning experience can and does occur in the post-secondary setting, and as such should not be ignored on the basis of it not preparing them for the real world. A commentary often stated by reluctant teachers in the face of new pedagogical possibilities. Another example of gamification and badging at the post-secondary level was the use of the game SICO, Surgical Improvement of Clinical Knowledge Ops, which was studied by Lin et al. At Stanford University's School of Medicine and was published in the American Journal of Surgery in 2016. SICO is a gaming platform that was put into place as an assessment for surgical decision making. The overall score from the game itself was used to assess the validity of the game for medical students, and the outcome of the study offers initial validity evidence for the use of this game in the training of future surgeons. Though the study does not go into depth as to the mechanics of the game, it offers evidence again that gamification and game-based learning are not only present in post-secondary education, but are present in the most elite of professions, including the most exclusive institutions as well. It is important to be aware that universities are utilizing game mechanics in their courses, as teachers need to feel confident in bringing game elements into their classrooms without feeling as though they are potentially compromising a student's schooling experience in so doing. Landers further extends this information to include a gamified course at Indiana University and another at Syracuse University. Teachers who are reluctant to try a new pedagogical approach will frequently dispute change by saying they need to prepare their students either for the real world or for post-secondary education. These examples illustrate that gamified learning is indeed present at the post-secondary level and at a variety of different universities. Conceptually speaking, this eliminates the argument that gamifying within the K-12 classroom is professionally irresponsible because it does not prepare students for post-secondary. The exploration of the concept of digital badging in education has illustrated that there are many unanswered questions in this topic. Some research concludes that there is potential for badging to impact motivation, while other research is less conclusive in this regard. Ryan, Rigby, and Przybylski note that provisions for choice, use of rewards as informational feedback, rather than to control behavior, and non-controlling instructions have all been shown to enhance autonomy and, in turn, intrinsic motivation. The use of badging in education has compelled us to re-examine our beliefs and the research surrounding intrinsic and extrinsic motivation in the classroom. This is where education and business diverge on this topic. Business does not concern itself with the psychological well-being of its clients, where in education, the psychological state of our students is always at the forefront of our consciousness as we engage with them in the classroom setting. Deci, Kostner, and Ryan summarized their meta-analysis of extrinsic and intrinsic rewards with the statement that it is clear that rewards do not undermine people's intrinsic motivation for dull tasks because there is little or no intrinsic motivation to be undermined. For K-12 educators, this statement should effectively exonerate us concerning ourselves with the value of badging as an extrinsic reward mechanism, as public education is required of children and none attend school by their own volition. To this end, we are not harnessed by the fact that digital badges are a form of extrinsic motivation. We have acknowledged that students attend school because the governments mandate that they do. G underscores this fact when he asserts that educators often bemoan the fact that video games are compelling and school is not. In the environments where students are struggling to be engaged with the material, digital badging as a motivating mechanism would serve the student in that it would encourage their motivation to learn content that would otherwise be considered dry and boring. Finally, in order for badging to really take hold in education, there needs to be a standardization of the badges used. Without standardization, badges serve as little more than stickers or candy. Mozilla's Open Badges has been at the heart of the movement to include badges in education. With their system, recipients had a digital backpack that allowed them to carry their badges forward with them as their learning progressed over extended periods of time. This mirrors a system already familiar to many students, the badge system implemented by Microsoft in their Xbox gaming console, a system that tracks achievements in all games across the life of a game player. A standardized backbone for digital badging allows previously earned badges to be transferred and imported with the badge earner as their life progresses. This changes badges from being essentially digital stickers into more formalized and recognizable credentials that can be used to illustrate these credentials when applying for a job or for post-secondary programs. Open Badges has been recently taken over by IMS Global Learning Consortium, which, according to Badge Alliance, is a member-supported organization that produces and supports some of the most important web standards in the education market. This is a solid move toward the standardization of badging in education. Further, as Open Badges is an open source movement, the Application Programming Interface, API, was made publicly available so developers could make Open Badges work with a myriad of learning management systems. Dr. Jane McGonigal sums it up nicely when she states that gameplay isn't just a pastime, it's a 21st century way of working together to accomplish real change. Just because badges are awarded in some classrooms at this time does not mean they are recognized by others. The issuer must have the credibility to issue the badge. Education is in the process of change. Harnessing the game mechanics that can assist with forging that change can only serve to help both the students and the teachers in our public schools.